dig deeper on this Black Lives Matter money thing. There's one interesting thing. So I went to the blacklivesmatter.com website, and I went there to try to understand what's going on. If you read blacklivesmatter.com, or I think it's also .org, I think they have both URLs. It's very fascinating. They have a lot of information about Black Lives Matter. They don't hide their agenda. It's just they take advantage of the fact that a lot of people don't read. They take advantage of the fact that people just don't read. They don't look into what they're being a part of, what they're supporting. So if you look at Black Lives Matter, what you really see is that they're not anti-black. They're not. They're very. I think they can be pro-black. They're seen as pro-black, and really what they reflect is the universality of what it means to be black. There are some black people who are conservative, some black people who are liberal, some black people who are straight, some black people who are gay, some black people who are male, some black people who are female, some black people who are traditional, into family and patriarchal structures, some people who believe in matriarchy or believe black men, black fathers are not that important or whatever, right? Feminism, whatever it is, right? There are black people who are pro-choice, there are black people who are pro-life. It is what it is, right? So if you go to Black Lives Matter, what you find is that they're not, I don't see them as an anti-black organization. I just see them as an organization that supports blackness if it fits specific conditions. All right, it means that if you're black and you are transgender, LGBT, if you're a feminist, etc. If you're pro-choice, if you're basically a white liberal in blackface, if you are a black person who identifies heavily with white liberal ideologies, then Black Lives Matter is the group for you. If you don't identify with white liberal ideologies, then this organization does not fit with you, right? So, for example, if you believe that the black man should be a part of and the head of a household, then this doesn't work for you. If you have an issue with the gay agenda, then this is not an organization for you, right? And I think that this is important. They make a very good point on this website. They kind of show you that, look, when you want to label a group of people as racist, because they don't agree with you, I think you have to really be thoughtful about that and think about what that means. So, for example, I hear people all the time tell me that conservatives are racist. I say I get a little confused by that because I'm like, well, wait a minute. If you go to the black Republican convention or you go to the White House when Trump has Black Trump Supporter Day, there's tons of black people there, right? And these are like real black people. They're not pretend fake or nothing. They're just black people who happen to have a specific ideology, right? And then if you say the liberals are completely racist, then you could be contradicted by the fact that if you go to the DNC, you'll see black people all day, every day, everywhere, all the time. So what really is interesting, where the racism comes in to me, is that everybody's trying to claim blackness. Like it goes back to when Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black, right? That was an offensive statement because what he's trying to do is he's trying to do what white people have done all around the world, which is this imperialistic colonization of black people as their own. Like, no, we own these Negroes. They're ours, right? And really, that's just a deeply offensive statement because if you really want to really be honest about it, black people are diverse. So here's what I see. When somebody says Republicans don't like black people, I say, no, actually, Republicans don't like black people who are liberal, right? They don't like liberals, period. Right? That's what it is, right? They don't like white people who are liberal. They don't like black people who are liberal. They just don't like any liberals at all, right? They like conservatives. If you're black and you're conservative, then they might let you marry their child. They want to hang out with you. They want to be your best buddy, right? Same thing with the Democratic Party and the liberals. The liberals, they don't like black conservatives, right? They're the first ones to call them Uncle Toms and everything else, right? But they love black liberals, right? So if you're into the gay agenda and into the feminism and the pro-choice stuff and all that, like if that's all your thing, then that works for you. But if you're like, for example, a black person who is deep into your religious faith, you might be a little bit confused because liberals are really big on kind of removing God from a lot of areas of our lives, where I know a lot of black people who aren't. So I don't know. I'm not really here to tell you which box you want to put yourself into. I'm more of a fan of just not being put into a box. I don't work well in boxes, because I feel like that restricts my humanity. So one of the things about Black Lives Matter that's really interesting is that if you look at where they raise money, they raise money through a group called Act Blue Charities. Act Blue, blue meaning Democratic Party. The Republicans raise money. If you're a Trump supporter and you give money, they raise money through an organization called Win Red, right? So red meaning Republican Party, right? So the Republicans are red, the Democrats are blue. So Black Lives Matter is a blue Democratic Party sort of organization. It's like a spinoff, right? It's a mobilizer. Their goal is to basically find black people who identify heavily with a lot of liberal issues. I did a deep analysis on Black Lives Matter. We went through the website and the whole mission statement. And one thing I'll say is that they don't lie to you. They're not overly deceptive in terms of the way the deception comes in the sense that when they use the term Black Lives Matter, everybody grabs it without really thinking about what the organization itself means because they just agree with the concept of Black Lives Matter. But really, if you read their website, they tell you clearly what they represent. And if you read through their about statement, one thing that you'll notice, for example, is there's almost no real mention of the black male and his importance in the black family. The conversations are all about ending patriarchy and dealing with this sexual discrimination within the black community. And that triggers me a little bit because I'm accustomed to hearing people accuse black men of toxic masculinity, things like that. And I think that is a little bit of an issue, right? Like I'm not toxic with my woman. I treat my black woman well, but I do believe that my black children need their black daddy up in the house, in case somebody comes up in here, right? This whole idea that households should be led by the mother only, that's a BS concept. That's why the R. Kellys are getting a hold of your little girls, because you're assuming the father isn't necessary. I grew up in an era where I saw strong fathers, even on TV. James Evans Jr. on Good Times was the kind of father where I was like, I like that. I like a father who lets people know, if you hurt my children or hurt my family, I'm going to kick your ass, right? But then you've got people that really believe men and women are the same, like, the gender is a figment of our imagination, or whatever it is that they think. And I'm not one of those people, right? And so I will say that, that there's a big difference between being a person who's, for example, affiliated with Black Lives Matter or the black wing of the Democrat or Republican parties, versus being a person who is truly, truly deeply rooted in solving the problems of blackness. That's why when you guys come in, first thing I do is I say #B1, we're black first. And what that means is that, everything else has to be secondary, right? Because if I come in and I say, hey, I'm a black Democrat, y'all, then my blackness is coincidental to my being a member of the Democratic Party. Me being a Democrat matters more than me being black, right? Or if I say I'm a black Republican, then being a Republican means more than me being black, right? Or I'm a black player for the Dallas Cowboys. Well, then being a Dallas Cowboy means more than me being black. So what I would say is flip it. Again, it depends on what your position is, right? If your goal is really to solve problems in the black community, then that has to be your what you call in business, that has to be your rock, right? It's like in business, there's something called quarterly rocks that are our business. For example, we have every quarter, we lay down, like, what are our 3 top priorities? Like, what are the most important things that we have? Those become our rocks. And where does that come from? Well, because in your life, you have rocks and you have sand. So imagine if you have some rocks you're trying to get into a glass. The glass represents how much free time you have. So you're trying to get rocks in the glass and you got sand to put in the glass. So let's say that you fill it halfway up with sand, right? And then you start dropping rocks. Well, you can only put in a couple of rocks because there's not much space left after the sand takes up half the glass. But what if you do it the other way? What if you put the rocks in first and then you pour the sand over the rocks? Well, the sand is going to get in where it fits in. The sand is going to fit between the rocks. The rocks, though, will be guaranteed a seat on the airplane, so to speak. The rocks are given top priority. So what I'm saying is that blackness has to be your rock. Right? Blackness has to be the thing where you say, I'm putting my black community in the glass first. And then if you want to pour in the sand, you can do all that shit all day long, right? We got all the sand pouring in, Democrat, feminist, LGBT, the immigration, immigration reform, whatever your other things are, you could pour those in as the sand, but they got to fit in between your blackness. That's why, for example, for many years, I always said, I'm not a finance professor who happens to be black. I'm a black man who happens to be a finance professor.